So we're just waiting for a few more people to join. They'll send their request that they're joining in.
Yeah, no issues.
Start in another 5 minutes, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sanjoy sir, with your permission, can we start?
Sure, Darshan.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to By the Quill, an initiative by the National Law University Assam and the Literary and Debating Committee. Today, on this session of the By the Quill, we have with us Senior Advocate Sanjoy Ghose, sir, who is here with us to discuss his new book that he has written. And this book is something that is very fascinating for a young law student like us who want to or who are about to set on to a journey onto the legal profession. Sir talks about how a young budding lawyer finds it difficult to make his way into the profession, but eventually with hard work and with determination, he will make headways. The book's name is How Gourango Lost His O. And there's a very fascinating manner and method in which sir has also chosen the name. So we will talk about that and a lot of other facets about law and how the common public has a perception of the law. this meeting is being recorded on YouTube as well, and we have a lot of other participants who are viewing it through YouTube. So, sir, we, on the behalf of the Literary and Debating Committee of the National Law University Assam, would like to welcome you.
Thank you, Darshan.
We're very glad to have you here today. Sir needs no introduction, but just for the norm of it, I will go ahead and give sir's introduction. So, as we all know, Sanjoy Ghose sir is a senior advocate in the High Court of Delhi. He has been part of the process initiated for introduction of laws on domestic violence and sexual harassment of women at workplace, which ultimately led to introduction of legislations in the year 2005 and in the year 2013. Although he has authored many articles and pieces, Gourango is his first novel. He is a graduate from the National Law School of India, University, Bengaluru, and he is the standing counsel for National Council Territory of Delhi. Today we have with us Sanjoy Ghose sir, and now we are about to start the question answer sessions on the book. So, sir, the very obvious first question that you would have expected is the first question. I have divided my first question into two parts, A and B. My first part is this: that what was your main inspiration to write this novel? Because I understand there will be sub-inspirations, there'll be other reasons, the specific reasons to write it. But what was your most important inspiration to write this novel? And this is something that is not really talked about in the sense that when we go to a bookstall, the normal perception is the reader should expect something from the author, and the book should be giving the reader something, a certain thing, a value for that money that he invests in buying that book. But my question is the other way around. What are your expectations from the reader? A person who is a law student probably reading the book, and a person who is not someone belonging to the law field but is still reading the book. So this is my first question. So your inspiration behind writing this book and your expectations from the readers.
Well, Darshan, you obviously don't believe in easy starting questions. No warm-up allowed here.
Yes.
Well, the answer is pretty simple. I wrote this book with nothing in mind except it was to feel a little worthy. What happens as practicing lawyers, we tend to equate our self-worth with working. And the days we don't work, so at that time, this is some small correction, I'm no longer the standing counsel. Upon designation as a senior, you can't be a standing counsel. So at that time, I was a government counsel of Delhi. I was a standing counsel of the High Court. We used to have 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 matters a day. And all of a sudden, you had the pandemic. And this book was actually written during the first wave, and it took some time to, in production and, finalizing. At that time, it was just the shock of not having anything to do and to feel sheer worthlessness. So that's the time when I felt that, let me write a biography, or rather an autobiography. And then I realized that it is very presumptuous of me. I am not a big person to write an autobiography. But at the same time, I found as a practicing lawyer, it's very difficult to write an autobiography when you have to go back to those same courts and practice.
Right.
So then fiction came to my rescue because it's fictional, right? Though, of course, many people who are in this book have identified themselves and they have forgiven me. But fiction liberates you completely. Now, coming to your second part of your question, what I expect from the reader, I concede that, I had told the publishers that, if possible, you could price it a little friendly on the pocket of the law student and the young lawyer, because, actually, I didn't write this to make money. But I understand the difficulties of publication. I understand their costs, etc. And I know it is a little heavy on the, on the burdensome on the pockets. So don't buy this book if you are looking for, a formula of success and a guidance or a guidebook or anything. This is just a book for entertainment, and more entertainment. So this is a book to just tell you, don't take yourself so seriously. Life will play out whether you like it or not. The 5 years of law school, as for Gourango, were the best years. Enjoy yourselves and then be open. Like in this case, Gourango's professor says that, what do you want to specialize in? And everyone says, I want to be a corporate lawyer. I want to be an IT lawyer. And ultimately, the professor says, you are fools. You will be the lawyer which destiny decides, your client decides that you will be. So don't take yourself so seriously. So if you are looking in investing like a Sirvai or some, that you're going to get some chicken soup for the soul kind of thing, this is not what you are going to get. You'll be disappointed.
Right, sir. Thank you. That was a perfect, apt answer to my question, sir. Thank you so much. So now, from what I have, I'm myself guilty of having ordered a very late copy. So it's on its way, but I'll be reading it the next week. But from what I have seen in the videos that were posted with regards to the inauguration ceremony as well, from what I can make of it, this book deals a lot with the interaction the common person, the common public, the litigant has with the court system. And this is where this leads to my next question, is with regards to the infrastructure in the subordinate courts or the lower courts that every lawyer has to encounter. Now, sir, over the last few years and specifically over the last few months, we've seen that there have been certain discussions, in the Supreme Court with the government as well, about having this new infrastructure thing coming up for the lower courts and how it is very necessary. And when we look at this perception in the public about the infrastructure of courts, for instance, let me take you through one of my interactions in the COVID lockdown, when the lockdown had eased a bit, and one of my cousins had visited me in our town. I took him around on a scooty, and I thought I'll show him around. I took him to the subordinate court, and I said, you know what, I'll take you to the court. Let's see how it is. And I took him to the court, and I said, this is the court. And he's still finding the court, and he's like, where is the court exactly? And then I pinpointed and said, this building right here is the court. And then he starts laughing innocently. Obviously, he starts laughing and says, "Is this really a court building? Is this really supposed to be a court building? Can justice be done here?" And on the other hand, there are other instances. Say, for instance, the movies the common man will watch. For instance, Jolly LLB 2 or Jolly LLB 1. These are brilliant movies. They really show what they wanted to show. But if you remember the instances where the judge himself gets on the chair, fixes his bulb, and the portrayal is that of a very shabby place where things are not really what they should have been. So the question I have for you is again twofold. First, have you ever felt when you were practicing in the lower courts or as a law student, have you ever felt that the very fact that our lower courts do not have the right infrastructure makes justice delivery not as effective as it would be had it been the other way around? And secondly, does this perception really matter? Because there are other instances of other district courts or of high courts as well, which have very beautiful buildings and have good infrastructure. So have you ever encountered this problem, and how do you look at it?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, though it may not directly relate to the book, because this book, the story is actually not from a trial court, but from a high court. So this issue of infrastructure doesn't come. But I recognize what you are saying. And the answer is pretty simple. And this is what also this book tries to do, is tries to demystify the Damini, Jolly LLB kind of understanding of courts and court systems. So this book is also meant for lay readers. So, I want you all to not only read as law students, but to share with your family members. And for a change, your family members, your friends who are not lawyers will appreciate the legal system more. Even law students will, to a certain extent, find the legal system demystified. Yes, and to answer your question, see, I am not a competent person to answer because I am a spoiled category. I have been birthed as a lawyer in Delhi, which is pampered with the best courts, best facilities. You just have to go 50 kilometers outside Delhi and you go to Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, and you will see the difference. I can imagine in backward, less developed areas like Assam, Bengal, Bihar, the situation may be even worse in lower courts. But, in a very, you have the potential to be a great author, Darshan, because you have brought out the irony even in your second question, that ultimately, even if you give all the infrastructure, will it ensure justice? So which takes us back to the core, and that is the method of appointing and selecting judges, and what is the philosophy of justice delivery. So until we are very clear that we are going to insulate justice delivery for the sake of independence of justice, for the sake of access to meaningful justice, by ensuring that only competent and only people with highest integrity and people who are there to work and committed to deliver are appointed. Even if you have the best of infrastructure, you're not going to get any kind of, or even if you populate a court with 9 judges, 20 judges, if the judges are not committed to working because of the system that we have of lack of accountability, you'll end up with a big zero. So yes, infrastructure is a problem, but again, quality is very, very essential. And for that also, you can't blame judges because, they work under horrible circumstances. We always see there's a big bungalow and judges are paid. Even in the best of cases, the Supreme Court and High Court judges earn in a whole month what a senior counsel will earn in 1/10 a day. So you have to ensure that the judges are paid well. Bureaucrats find it. I'm giving you a very politically incorrect thing. It's a school audience, a college audience. So I hope it'll be contained. But if I was saying it more publicly, there would be outrage. But the bureaucrats are the ones who end up controlling judges' salary, and they're always pegging with themselves. They say, "Or hum to all India exam karke aaye hai. I have taken 25 years to reach a secretary level, additional secretary level. Why should I give the judge much more?" But unfortunately, the judicial function is a very, very key function. And if you want quality judges, then you have to end up paying more, and then expect to also insulate the process from, all these other considerations at the time of appointment.
Right, sir. Right, sir. I understand, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for that explanation. Which now leads us to the next question. Now, we know that this book talks about the struggles that a young lawyer has to go through, and the interactions that, they face. And that, obviously draws parallel with our Indian legal system, wherein a young lawyer without any godfather has to make his way, as you have, into the list, which matters. Now, sir, now that you have reached on the other side, and you will, I'm 100% sure, do wonderful more things in the future. Looking back in hindsight, if you were given an opportunity to change a certain thing, a certain way this entire system works, the entry of a lawyer, writing the bar exam. So when you see in comparison, the US or the other exams are very difficult to crack, and they have a system where very few lawyers come out, whereas we have a very easy exam to write, and then there are a lot of lawyers, the supply demand doesn't really work. Or in the other hand, there is this idea of favoritism and good in life, which is obviously to some extent a misconception. Now that you are on the other side, my question to you is, what would you change? And if you wouldn't change anything, would you let it stay the same? Let that person go through the grinding, go through all the hard work, and come out as a better lawyer?
When you say you're on the other side, it's very scary. I don't know which side you're referring to. I am very much on the side. I still consider, in my Twitter, my bio says struggling lawyer. There are two purposes why I have this. Let me share with you. One obvious purpose is that for trolls, especially from the right wing and ultra left wing, when you write struggling lawyer, they pardon what you write. So then imagine if I had written in my Twitter bio standing counsel for Kejriwal government, and I'd written something about the central government. Imagine the kind of political controversy that will happen. But when I write a struggling lawyer, when I used to write a bio as a struggling lawyer, then people, at best, the gali would be, "Arey, isliye to tu struggle kar raha hai." That's one. But more importantly, let me tell you why I consider struggle. See, it is, if you must always believe that you are struggling for justice. The day you become smug, or the day you believe that you have reached the other side, and that, now you're confident, you can just walk into a court and you can do your little bit and make money, that's the day you will lose. Or rather, if you are in this profession for passion, and believe me, and I'm going to share some hard truths in litigation, like Gourango, who comes to Delhi from Calcutta, who actually tells in this book, you'll find he actually tells he actually first takes a corporate job because he expects to, his parents have spent money on law school education, like me. So, a little bit of semi-autobiographical here. And then ultimately you feel that, your parents have spent so much money. Like Gourango says that I can't depend on my parents anymore. But if I go and practice, I will get hardly any money. So I'll have to take a corporate job. And he takes a corporate job and he finds that this is not what he wants to do. So if you're coming into litigation, you're coming in with a passion. And that passion will be lost if you stop believing that your struggle is over. Struggle is never over. But my message is that, you were talking about first generation lawyers. Yes, the legal system is very, very incestuous. very, very feudal. It is very difficult to break in, but it is not impossible. And all you need to do is, and I know it's very easier said than done. For example, let me share my life. I came to Delhi. My first starting salary was 5,000. I was told in 1997, 5,000 was also a very grand sum. But believe me, with that 5,000 also, I had to really think of how to manage in a city. I was lucky enough to have my grandmother staying there, but travel, having to eat, having to survive, it's difficult.
Right, sir.
So one thing I would like to change, and this has to happen, is litigation has to become more friendly for young people. If we want to improve the quality, if we want to improve the quality of the legal profession, if we want more and more NLU products to actually join the litigations, as opposed to taking corporate jobs or going abroad, we just can't continue with. I know some of my juniors have also logged in, so they should shut their ears now. You should not have such exploitative systems as young lawyers face in litigation. I can understand that you spending lakhs on your law school and then coming and having to take a job of 20,000, 30,000, it becomes difficult, or even less in some tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So that is a challenge. If left to me, I would like to democratize this and bring in some element of fairness. There, the legal profession is seeing, and especially during COVID, Darshan actually brought out the extremities in every aspect, in every profession and in every aspect of life. And one of the things it did in the legal system was it exposed the absolute iniquity in the legal system. You had senior counsels, and I'll put myself to blame also, and I'm a beneficiary of this. So let me not take a holier than thou attitude. You had senior counsels who were so, and all of you saw all those bloopers and all those clips of a senior counsel sitting in an underwear and all those things. The senior counsels were making money hand over fist. Someone who's sitting in London with a Spaniard was appearing in all over the country, in India, in the Supreme Court in the morning, Rajasthan High Court in the afternoon, in the trial court in the evening. The seniors who were not so lucky to be in London with a Spaniard, who were in India with Indians, they were also jet setting from everywhere, sitting in their own house. Lawyers who actually were in the stage of destitution. A fund was set up, for example, by the Delhi High Court to give something like 5,000 or 10,000 to lawyers, and people actually applied, because imagine the humiliation for them to actually admit that we are nowhere. Delhi, but could not sustain. They went back to their towns and villages. And I know so many senior lawyers who actually, and it's shameful, who actually, I can say with pride that during COVID in my office, not a single of my colleagues suffered any salary cuts, and the normal increment which was given every year was continued. But there are so many seniors who were making money through these multiple half their salaries. So it is, I'm sorry, I keep rambling on. You have.
It's always nice to hear from you, sir. That's when you but justice hurried is justice buried. And so when you look at this entire perception in the public, if you go and talk to people in general, they'll say that lawyers, these are people who they earn more money. They don't want it to finish. And a case, if you put it in the court, it'll go for 15 years, 20 years. There's no point. See places where there are no judges, in the consumer court, for instance, there is no precedent for 2 to 3 years, no decree can be passed, the consumer court is not really working. Versus you, on the other hand, also see situations where it was necessary probably to have that reappreciation of the evidence again, or to go through the cross-examination again. And because it was not done, justice was not really served. So as a lawyer, when you would be probably facing both these situations, you'd be probably facing a situation where, the first part of the phrase would go against you, in the sense that you would not get your remedy and you would be answerable to your client. On the other hand, the remedy would be too quick enough for you to do anything about it. So, sir, how do we young law students look at this phrase? How do we interpret it, and what meaning do we derive out of it? And what meaning would you derive out of it?
Well, this story which I wrote is actually from the viewpoint of a litigant. So the frame of the story is a litigant called Noor, and he's trying to get himself a regularization in his job in his madrasa in Sundarbans in South Bengal. And how this case travels from the litigant's viewpoint, all the way from the single judge to the division bench to the Supreme Court. And in the process, but that's why it's called a non-story, because the main story is just the background. And what I try to do is I try to flesh out the characters in this case, and they are the judge, the court clerk, the court master, the wife of the judge, the wife of the lawyer. So it humanizes the entire process. And incidentally, once somewhere in the book there is this comment which Gourango or someone makes, and which actually fits in what you are saying. He says that the bar is very merciless. If a judge is too slow and gives time, they say ye to bahut slow hai. If the judge is quick, they'll say ye to bahut fast hai. So it is, this entire thing is very interesting. This hurried, buried, and justice delayed is denied.
Yes.
So ultimately, and judges are not superstars and superhuman. And what you actually made, the point you made is true. Unfortunately, the government has been very insensitive. The central government has been very insensitive to the cause of justice delivery, especially through administrative tribunals and other special tribunals. Of course, consumer forums are state governments, so there you can't blame the center. And every state also. When I say central government, again, I'm not attacking a particular party. It is just how the system is. And what has happened is you've had, these tribunals. When you were saying about this consumer forum, I was thinking about even the state administrative tribunals and central administrative tribunals have gone unmanned. And it's reached a situation when there are 130 cases listed and there's just one judge when actually there should be 10. So yes, and this COVID also led to, in COVID, you only had urgent cases being heard.
Right.
So as it is, our system was so averse to quick justice, speedy justice. And we've added, and again, we can't blame a government or a court or a litigant or a lawyer. It is this whole unfortunate pandemic has even taken us back, several decades. So it's a complete mess. And unfortunately, we are only at the tip of the iceberg trying to do some window dressing here and there. But we need to have a revolutionary transformation in the way we think about justice. For example, in high courts,
yes, sir.
There are so many judges, who are retiring at 62. Now, 62 is no age to retire at this day and age.
Right.
Or the Supreme Court is 65. So there is a provision in the Constitution which allows you to appoint ad hoc judges. So why don't we allow these judges to continue as ad hoc judges? Why don't we appoint lawyers who are willing to sacrifice that 2 years or 3 years and just be ad hoc high court judges and dispose of the pendencies? Right. So, but all this is easier said than done, because it actually requires someone somewhere to actually take that initiative and do something. Make that change. Think of that Daridra Narayan who's actually the consumer of your justice.
Right, sir. Right,
and today, senior counsel's fees. I mean, even the cheapest senior, let us assume, forget those who are charging 75 lakhs in appearance and 25 lakhs in corporate something. Even if you're paying a senior 50,000 rupees in appearance, how many of us can actually afford that? How many of the
Correct.
middle class can actually for one hearing and then it's just adjourned in 2 minutes and you pay 50,000 rupees? So actually today, justice is going slowly slipping out of the reach of the poor people. And the middle, forget poor, even middle class people
Right, sir.
who are like you and me, it is just
Yes, sir.
slipping out of our hands.
Right, sir. Right, sir. That's a very pertinent, the entire idea of how, justice needs to reach each and every one of us, but the very means by which justice is to be reached to the lawyers, the advocates, and how the fees are being charged, and how there's no proper implementation of a lot of other rules and laws that we have on the administrative side needs a lot of caution, needs a lot of introspection, if that is the word that we can use. Sir, so then that now let's digress a bit from the law and let's go to something else. Now that you have, this is I would call it another innings of your life, and you've started writing. We hope that there is another edition, and there's more to come. There are more books to come on this angle. But I was wondering about who your favorite author is, and over the years, which has been your favorite book, and why would you say that is your favorite book?
Well, I can share that, though I didn't like any of his other works, but the book on Bhaval Sannyasi's case by Partho Chatterjee is a must read. That is a book which I read 3 times. Normally I don't read. It is the case. It's the most landmark case decided in pre-independent India on the issue of identity of Bhaval. So I think it's called the Sannyasi and the King or something like that. It's by Partho Chatterjee. You can Google and see. That is, that has been a favorite of mine. But I am more into I must confess, I'm more into graphic novels. I shifted to graphic novels. Osamu Tezuka is the king of manga, and I have read almost all his works. Jiro Taniguchi is another great master. There are so many of Shigura. There are so many of these Japanese people who've done brilliant work on manga. So I read a lot of comics, and I find them quite easy on the eye. And I normally get very scared with huge tomes. So if a book is like brilliant person like Manu Pillai, I read his the one which had small articles on the courtesans and whatever that book was called. But for example, his book on the Travancore house, it's huge. It's 500 pages, or even William Dalrymple. I find them quite intimidating. So therefore, this is like just 200 pages. This is the kind of book which I would like to read. Just not so heavy, and it's done with.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Absolutely, sir. And so that brings us more or less to an end to the questions that we had for you. But sir, if you had any parting message for the young Gourangos, for the young lawyers, for the young law students who are listening, what would be your advice to them, sir?
My advice to them would be that, I'm a fossil. Okay, I come from an age. I was just sharing this. Let me just share some secrets with you.
Yes, sir.
I was just discussing this, and I think I should be in trouble if I say it openly. But in our days, can you imagine doing a project in a pre-computer day when you were handwriting your submissions? So we in law school, even those days, we used to think of ways to circumvent hard work. So my friend and I would write down. I didn't have a bike. On his bike, he would go and I would pillion, and we would go to the IIM in Bangalore and research their library and research for what? Research not the library for books, but for bibliography, to get a list of what books is there on the subject, and then come back and in our project, what we have done, add it in. Now here was the challenge. We did not have a computer system which would tell us how to automatically sort function, SORT. So we would have to manually cog from 15 different bibliographies and try to do a alphabetic cheating. But as I said, I come from a fossilized generation. I went to law school in 91, graduated in 96. Law has changed, technology has changed. The law student today is much smarter You have information coming to you at real time. All of you are clued in and keyed in to live law, bar and bench, leaflet, all these law beat and all that. You get to know what is happening in courts in real time. And you are very vocal. You reach out on Twitter. There are so many people, like, for example, so many people reach out to me on Twitter. And I really wish that I lived in a generation where I could just, the senior advocates or advocates who are pretty senior, who were, at my time, if I wish we had a mechanism of reaching out to them, discussing, seeking advice. So you are the blessed generation. But at the same time, I understand that there's a lot of pressure on you guys. We had it much easier, as I said, and you will see from the story of Gourango, who is also, and no coincidence, also went to law school at the same time I did. And it was like so easy. There was no CLAT, there was no coaching, there was no this pressure, there was no all India ranking that way. But maybe 5,000 people took the exam when we went. I don't know. I'm just saying the top of my head. But certainly not 30,000 or 50,000 people as they take CLAT now. So my advice to all of you would be that this is the time, law school is the time to enjoy yourself. This is the time, and this is very important. You must have plurality of thoughts. You must. There is nothing wrong in having right-wing or conservative views. There's nothing wrong in having leftist views or centrist views. You must make space for everyone to say whatever they want, because this is the time when you can speak freely. As you grow older into the profession, come into the profession, you'll find that there'll be only a few exceptions, like fools like me, who will still continue to speak freely. But most people will realize that it is not the right thing. And you will have people who will tell you that, you temper your speech, temper your expression. So this is your precious time. You can say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can write whatever you want. So have an open mind. And when you come into the legal profession, come in with no expectations. And that's what is very important to understand, that if you come in with expectations and if you come in comparing, don't compare. And I'm saying that we did the same thing. Again, as I'm saying, it's not holier than thou advice. It is advice from people who have suffered. So don't compare that, oh, my colleague has got a placement here or a job here and I couldn't get here. Oh, he's going to Calcutta, I'm going to Guwahati, Don't do that. Don't compare. Each of you will have your own trajectory. Each of you will have your own growth path. But if possible, and this is very important, if possible, retain your individual identity, your fragrance. Don't succumb to pressures, and you will be under pressure to sacrifice your identity. You don't have to be strident always or for the sake of being strident. But at the same time, retain your individual identity, and believe me, professionally, it will matter. Even people who may disagree with you, I have so many people who violently disagree with what I say, but they admire the fact that I have the guts, or I feel that I'm fearless enough to articulate my views. And that is not something great. All of you can do that. Do not fear to be your own individual. And that is the greatest strength that you can add. If you have right-wing views, don't feel cowed down in not sharing it because, "Arey, ye log kya sochega, because ye to leftist hai." Don't.
Right, sir.
You must say that this is my view. And in a true democracy, space must be made out for everyone's view. And in a true representative bar, space must be made out for every meritorious lawyer. So that one goes with the other, actually.
Right, sir. Right, sir. That is, I think, a very wonderful idea that you have put in for the young lawyers to take, and this is something that is really, really, wonderful to hear from you. We have a question actually, which is coming from certain Praveen Singh in the chat box. It says, "Why did you choose Gourango and not Sanjoy itself? And has Sanjoy not lost his O yet?"
Well, how many O's are there in the Contempt of Courts Act? That is your answer. why it is not Sanjoy. Sanjoy is a real character, then I would have to use real names, real lawyers, real judges, real clients. So you have the Advocates Act, which prevents me from breaching confidentiality of clients.
Right, sir.
And you have the Contempt of Courts Act, which prevents me from being disrespectful towards sitting or past judges. But this is fiction. So there, everything goes here. As I've said clearly that ये fictional है, सब चरित्र काल्पनिक है.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So that's it. Then we have come to an end to the session. It was an honor, sir.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you very much.
And we will share the link for the book on our chat box and on the YouTube link as well as on the WhatsApp group. So everyone who's hearing, everyone who's about to hear this video on YouTube, please go and get your copies. Read the book, and this is going to be one amazing read. We thank you, sir, for coming here today.
Thank you.
We really love to host you someday.
All the best. All the students, I wish you all the very best. And let me tell you, I was very disappointed. I thought you actually would have me come to Guwahati. And I was all excited. And then I was told, no, it's virtual.
Yes, sir. We would love to have you here someday. And, it's a very beautiful campus at Naluja here. We love to take you around and love to have you here in person. So thank you so much for joining, sir. And we wish you all the best, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.